All right, welcome back. This is my story about how I survived brain surgery. Let's do a quick recap. If you're new here, March of 2023, got diagnosed with a brain tumor by my gynecologist. April, I met the endocrinologist at Hopkins, decided to pursue surgery in lieu of long-term medication. August of 23, I met with the neurosurgeon, talked about the surgery, the complications, the risks, the recovery, all of that. Pursued it. September, I met with the ENT to do a nasal exam to determine the structural integrity of my nose. It was fine. End of October into November, I did my last round of MRIs, CT scans, met with the anesthesia team, determined that everything was going to be okay. Now we are coming up on the day of surgery. I had surgery on Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. The night before, I was at my parents' house, my childhood home. I was, back in my old room, which was very comforting. And I was surprisingly calm. I did a lot of work leading up to that whole summer and in the fall, practiced meditation a lot, spent a lot of alone time. Just everything that I was doing was focused on preparing myself for this surgery. So again, I was pretty calm. I packed a hospital bag, which I didn't end up needing anything from it, but I still packed it. And I was up for a while. You can't eat past midnight, the night before your surgery. So I had dinner, finished around like 8 o'clock or so. And then I was just kind of up. I wasn't frantic, but I was just couldn't sleep. But I ended up falling asleep around midnight just to get up at like 3:30 because I had to be at the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. And so the day of, you can't eat or drink, put any kind of lotion on, deodorant, you can't do any of that. The only thing you can do is brush your teeth. So I took a shower, brushed my teeth, got dressed, and my parents and I drove to the hospital. It was a very quiet ride. It wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't awkward. It wasn't awkward, but it just kind of felt like a regular drive. It didn't feel like the weight of what was actually happening that day. So I had a playlist that I was listening to, just calming music for me as I was preparing for this surgery. So I put the playlist on, turned it down low, and it was dark outside. It was just no traffic out, just an easy ride up to Baltimore. Get to the hospital, check in. I had my advance directive. I turned that in. And then your family goes to the waiting area and they take you back and you basically get undressed. You put your gown on. I had to put some compression socks on. And you do a urine sample because if you're a woman, they're going to test if you're pregnant or not. I don't know what they do for men, but so I gave them a urine sample. And then you kind of there's some like waiting time, some downtime in between, and you're just kind of sitting there like, about to have brain surgery. Like, you don't really know what to do. But then another nurse comes and asks you some questions. It's just lots of people coming and asking lots of questions. And before they're ready to bring you in, they say that you can have 2 guests come in one at a time to see you. So my dad came in first, talked to him for a few minutes, gave him a hug, took a selfie, and then he left. My mom came in, did the same thing, gave her a hug, took a selfie. And at that point, my anesthesiologist came and said that they were ready for me. And surprisingly, I didn't cry. I really kept it together. And it's not like I was trying to be this super strong, like, oh, I'm not scared. And I was terrified. But I meditated that morning and, I had just gotten myself to this really calm space. So as he's wheeling me to the OR, he asked me what my favorite trip was, my favorite place that I traveled to. And I told him about a trip I took to Hawaii with my dad. And as I'm talking, he was like, oh, I went to Hawaii and did you do this and did you do that? So we're just having this really casual conversation on our way to the OR about traveling. The doors of the OR opened and I'm just looking around. I wanted to remember everything about this experience. So I was taking notes, mental notes of everything I saw. The lights on the ceiling, the table in the middle of the room. That's what really made me nervous. But the table, the monitors, the equipment, the other people in there, you know, I'm just looking around, taking it all in. And they helped me from the bed to the operating table. And the table is pretty hard, and it's cold. Well, the room is cold in itself, but you know, you lay down, there's a special place for you to put your head. And then your arms are just like straight out to the side. So I knew what was going to happen because I did a lot of research leading up to this. I actually watched this surgery on YouTube before I had it. I'm fascinated with surgery, so I watched a lot of surgeries. I watched videos about anesthesia and what to expect, all like that. So I knew they were going to put a mask on me to oxygenate my lungs. So I'm laying there, they put the mask on, and I remember asking if I could hold it while I was taking in those deep breaths. And they said yes. So I'm holding this mask, and I'm just, you know, calming myself, telling myself everything is going to be okay. I'm in the best hands. And as I'm thinking that, I start to feel this warmth just go through my body. And I realized that was, well, I started to panic at first. I was like, why am I feeling all this heat? You know, I don't know if that's how everyone experiences anesthesia, but that's what I experienced. So I could just feel it going in one arm, just moving across to the other arm, down my legs. And I just reiterated to myself, you're okay. This is the start of anesthesia, and you're gonna wake up soon, and this will all be over. And I remember looking up at the ceiling. I was in the middle of trying to say something to them about traveling, because one of the other doctors got in on the conversation. And I remember the second my brain stopped. I was looking at the ceiling, and it was like in mid-sentence, I just stopped. And I remember for half a second, I was thinking, why can't I finish this sentence? And that was it. So this surgery, they estimated would be 5 hours. It ended up being 8 hours. So I went in around 7:45 or so in the morning, and it wasn't until about 4:30 or so, 4:30, when they were finally finished. I went to the recovery room for about 3 hours. I have no memory of the recovery room. And then I was transferred to ICU, where my family could finally see me. So that was around 7:30 or so that evening when I got to ICU. Now, prior to the surgery, I told myself, I didn't share this with anybody else, but I told myself that I was going to ask my family a very specific question when I woke up, for 2 reasons. Number one, it was kind of a funny question. I mean, I guess funny is relative, but it was kind of a funny question. So I knew it was going to ease their worry and their stress, but also it was a test to myself if I could remember this. You know, I knew they weren't operating in like the memory part per se of my brain, but anything brain related, you just get nervous about. So I was just like, let me see if I remember this question when I wake up in ICU. And luckily, it was the first thing I thought about when I woke up. So we're gonna end there. Tune in for the rest of the story.